Well, welcome to Dynamite After Dark here on YouTube and LOP Radio. And Jeff, I really don't know what to think about what I just saw, so I'm going to let you talk a little bit.
I didn't like any of it. I don't know if it was a letdown from last week's amazing show. I don't know if none of it resonated with me. I honestly, I don't know. I start to finish, I was not a fan of this show, of this episode.
That's a fair assessment of it. I can't say that I'm not there with you, but I was mostly talking about the end of the show. It was definitely not what I was expecting. I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, we saw Cody get hit 10 times with a strap, but I was expecting something where, like between every strap, MJF is talking to him, yelling at him, telling him to quit, and, had the microphone playing to the crowd, and we didn't see much of that at all.
Well, what we got was we
It was a
got
lot more. It was a lot more about Cody and, Cody's reactions and Cody's friends coming out and Cody's family coming out and his coach coming out, and then there was that one big spot with Wardlow hitting him with the strap, stepping into it. But I mean, this was an incredible opportunity to get MGF over on the mic, and they completely blew it, in my opinion.
well, he's already over on the mic, so it wouldn't have done much more to improve his status. The thing that I
Wrong, 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 wrong. Remember, how many times have we said they shouldn't be going to commercial when he's on the microphone,
well,
when he's
no,
talking to the crowd?
they shouldn't,
And
but
and they did this, and they did basically the same thing tonight, where they basically handicapped him. They put a muzzle on him almost, where he wasn't playing to the crowd the way that he should be. So I don't think we've gotten to see his mic skills the way playing to the crowd the way that we should have as a live, the live audience does, but not us television viewers. And I think that they blew it again tonight with that.
Well, I think they blew it with this entire spot. I mean, first of all, I'm not a fan of ending the show on a segment. I've never been a fan of ending any show on a segment, and this is now the second time in, what, 3, 4 weeks they've done that. Also, literally anybody that saw the um, Flip Gordon caning 2 years ago saw exactly the same thing happen. This was
But
almost
done better.
done much better because Bully Ray was screaming at him the whole time. This time, I mean, MJF was talking to him, but was talking to him quietly, one on one, basically saying, "Kid, stay down," whatever. He wasn't screaming at him to quit or give up or anything like that. But I mean, it was almost an identical way that it played out with the extra people coming down to the ring in waves to give him encouragement and him flipping him off the final couple of times and it was this was almost a play-by-play version of exactly what Flip Gordon went through 2 years ago when Bully Ray caned him.
Maybe you and I are biased on this because our experience with, recent experience with Flip Gordon, and of course, we were doing the ECW, history shows, so we saw just freshly in our minds the caning by Sandman to Tommy Dreamer, but this certainly felt really tame by comparison.
Well, this was also on
And it certainly
national
felt like
TV.
really poorly done by comparison. And there was hardly any blood, which you would expect when a guy's getting hit 10 times with a strap. I mean, there was like a little bit of blood on his thumbnail, and that was about it.
There was a
It
lot
was
of
just
welts, though.
really, what's that?
There was a lot of welts, and you can't control that. And it's not like being hit with a wooden stick like Flip was with the cane. It's not going to necessarily break the skin when it's just a leather strap. But with the welting that he had, he was getting hit. It just wasn't cutting. It just wasn't breaking the skin.
They can't control it with a belt, but if they'd have the regular leather strap that we've seen in those strap matches, I think he would have bled. But I
Yeah,
don't
more than
understand the
likely.
choice of using regular leather belt either.
Yeah, I
It
don't.
was
I
supposed to be with
mean,
a leather strap.
I don't get it. I don't. Like I said, and maybe it was tamed down because this is a national audience. Regardless, I don't. I'm in disagreement of this segment even taking place to begin with. It was a stupid stipulation to begin with. It was not well done. I don't like the placement of it. There's nothing about this that I like, and it's not, not just this. I felt like I felt like they had missteps throughout the entire show, with the exception of that four-man tag and the continuation of um, Paige for some reason not being friends with his friends anymore. It just that was a fairly decent match. Other than that, there wasn't a whole lot to write home about in this entire show. We had a Genie go up against Britt Baker. We had SCU and the Best Friends being
Well, you
trotted
can
out
make
there
fun of her
again.
if you want to, but you said a couple. You can make fun of Yuka Sakazaki if you want to, but she's a phenomenal wrestler.
Oh, she
You
is, but
saw her
she's
in
dressed like a genie.
a couple of great matches already, and you had said a couple of weeks ago that when someone's making their debut, they should win the match.
Right, and they
And
did.
she wins the match, so you should.
I'm not.
So you should have some, and also got Britt Baker over as a a dastardly villainous brutal heel. So I don't have any problems at all with what happened in the women's match.
No, I don't have problems with it either. My issue was that she was dressed like a genie. So that was.
Who cares?
It to me, I don't. It's not a big deal. She just was dressed like a genie. I don't. The match itself was decent. There was nothing inherently wrong with it. It's just that she was dressed like a genie. That was my only thing.
Well, yeah. So, uh, the bunny dresses like a sadomasochist woman. So what?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think you let superficialities take hold of you sometimes.
I'm not saying that there was anything inherently wrong with the match. I'm not saying that it was a bad match. I'm just saying she was dressed like a genie. It's just a joke, dude.
Well,
Relax.
get over it. That's probably how she's gonna be dressed every time she's out there.
It's just a joke. Relax.
No. This show took away my ability to relax.
It was not a good show. I mean, there's no two ways around that. It just was not a good show.
No, I enjoyed the pack segment with Riho and Nyla Rose coming out and powerbombing Riho through the table again. I enjoyed the Darby Allin vignette. I thought that was really well done. And I thought, it's great that he's setting his sights on Sammy Guevara, and maybe we're going to get a Sammy singles match on a pay-per-view for the first time.
Hopefully,
that'd be
nice.
awesome.
Yeah, that would be nice.
I totally agree with JR. I had tweeted out earlier this week that I was going to stop piling on JR and I was going to watch the show and evaluate how much he irritated me versus how much he contributed to the show. And tonight, he barely irritated me at all. And I thought he did a solid job tonight on commentary. And I thought exactly the same thing he did during the Best Friends versus SCU match. You've got the advantage, you're about to win the match, but instead of going for the finish, let's hug in the middle of the ring.
Yeah, it's not a very good. I'm just worn out on both those teams, to be honest. I don't understand how SCU is still considered the number one contender. I get it, they were the champs, but they lost. You go back to the back of the line, work your way up. That's just the way that the world works.
Right, but they said that they were 8-1 since they started 0-2, so it doesn't make sense that they would be the top contenders still, because they still have the best record.
Yeah, and that's I don't know. I've always been a little indifferent on that, and maybe it's just the fact that I'm sick and tired of seeing them, which is probably more likely the possibility. And I'm in the same boat with Best Friends. I'm just you get worn out on people when you watch the same matches every single time, and with both those teams, it's the same matches. It really truly is, especially with Best Friends. I mean, Best Friend builds to their stupid hug in the middle of the ring, and they run through.
It's funny you say that because when that match started, I was like, and as the match was progressing, I was like, didn't we just see this match last week? And it took me until almost the very end of the match to realize, oh no, last week it was SCU versus the Hybrid 2.
Yeah, and we get the same
but
thing.
I really felt like we had just seen this match.
We literally get the exact same thing out of Best Friends and SCU every single time they're in the ring. It's almost the same formula. And we were talking, we talked last night about formulas, And out of these guys, it's the same formula. It's got to get to a point where we need to start seeing some of the other matchups and not these two tag teams on every single week. It's one or the other every single week, just against different people. Maybe it's time for us to get a hybrid theory versus, or hybrid 2 versus Lucha Brothers or something like that, as opposed to SCU and Best Friends being out there every week.
Speaking of the Lucha Brothers, you mentioned that 8-man tag that was a pretty damn good match, and it had some great character moments from everybody in it.
Yeah, that was a highlight.
And some phenomenal stuff by our boy Ray Phoenix again.
Yep.
But they announced there's a tag team title match for next week, and like you mentioned, SCU are still the number one contender, so they're getting the tag team title shot. They're getting their rematch for the titles, which I hate those instant rematch things. I think you and I both do. But Pentagon pinned Hangman Page in the middle of the ring clean in this match. They hold a victory over the tag team champions. They should be the ones getting the tag title shot next week.
Yeah, I agree. But then again, we wouldn't get our
SCU.
We wouldn't get our weekly SCU on there if that was the case. And we got to have one of these two teams on there every single week.
What's that?
We wouldn't have our weekly SCU segment if they didn't get the title match.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, me too. I also the Moxley match, that again, there was nothing inherently wrong with the match. It was a fairly decent match. And having Jericho and Guevara on the mic was fun, but the whole eye for an eye thing, and now we've got Santana wanting a piece of Moxley and another eye for an eye. Is just everybody going to be blind in this feud by the end of it?
Either going to be blind or they won't be able to see. One or the other.
One or the other. Perfect. I don't know. It's just... I get it. Mox is a lunatic, and Jericho did an amazing job of getting an already guy over, even more so, just in his commentary. And Guevara was fun, kissing Jericho's ass on the mic, or on commentary as well. I liked that segment. I liked like I said, there was nothing awful about the match. I just wasn't a fan of the ending. I did, looking at the pluses of the show, that match was a plus until the ending. That 8-man match was a plus. The segments with Pac and Omega and Darby Allin were pluses. So they did have some goodness in this show. I just maybe comparing it to last week, where last week everything was a home run. I think this week kind of missed in a few spots, and it suffered because of it. Also, I hate having those. I hate having segments ending a show. I just can't stand it. The show needs to end with a main event, not with a segment. So I've never been a fan of that.
I'm okay with it happening every once in a while, but like you said, we just had it a month, like 3 weeks ago. So having it 2 times in 4 weeks is a bit much.
Right.
And the as far as the eye thing, I think it did set up a great Jericho moment too, where Jericho's out there later on, and he said, "Did you not see what just happened out there? How could what kind of a person would try to take somebody's eye out? What kind of a person would use a spike to try to take somebody's eye out? What kind of person would try to end somebody's career like that?" And it's like, you're like the biggest hypocrite on the planet right now.
Yeah, that was a good moment. I did laugh pretty hard at that. Another great moment was when Matt came up and stole the Hangman's beer, saying, we know what the problem is, and took his beer and walked off. And that actually got me thinking a little bit later, especially after he pulled out the pitcher and started chugging it. I don't know that
I must have missed that somehow. When did that happen?
It was in between one. I think it was right before the MJF bit, where they had Hangman was
having. I had to run to the bathroom before that. Okay, so
Hangman was having a backstage interview.
I'll have to rewind that and watch it.
Yeah, Paige was having a backstage interview. The Bucks came up and trashed him, told him that he's got to start making tags and start doing teamwork, or he's going to lose the titles. And then Matt said, "Oh, I know what your problem is." Grabbed his beer and walked off. And then Hangman grabbed a pitcher of beer and just started chugging it. And after seeing that, it got me thinking that they're not going to be able to turn Hangman heel. It's not going to happen. He is way too over with the crowd no matter what he does. And if he's going to turn heel, it's going to be by attacking one of the elite. More than likely Kenny Omega, who I don't know, as over as Kenny is, as beloved as Kenny is, I don't know with how over Hangman and his current character is, if that's going to turn him heel. I just don't think it is, no matter how brutal the attack is.
I want him to be an anti-hero. I want him to be an in-between guy. I
Yeah,
want him to just be, a guy going his own way.
That's kind of what he is now. He's an anti-hero. But if their end game plan is to turn him heel, to have a to have a match or a series of matches, whatever, against Omega, it's just not going to work. He's too over to turn heel by attacking Omega, no matter how he does it.
Did you see that sign in the crowd tonight, by the way? That was great.
I missed it.
During that 8-man tag?
I totally missed it.
It said Alki and Omega.
Oh, okay. That's funny. That's actually really funny. And
yeah, I loved that.
The women's match was actually fairly decent, too, which is hard to say out of a Britt Baker match. But it was nice seeing her be a heel without trashing the announcers, for a change. The other thing I noticed is...
Yeah, I thought Chelsea Baker did a pretty decent job being a heel tonight.
Oh, but I can't call the other one a Genie lookalike. Anyway, another thing that I did notice...
you can say it all you want to. My point was you're not going to get used to it because it's going to keep happening.
Oh, I'm sure. But then again, the way AEW's booking is, we probably won't see this.
Last week at NXT, Britt Green. Last week at NXT, Britt Green lost her debut, and then this week, Chelsea Baker, did a pretty good job against Yuka Sakazaki.
And the only problem with is the way that they book that women's division is we're probably not going to see her again until All Out. So I'll be all amazed about the Genie outfit again then.
See who? Oh, yeah.
Sakazaki.
Once again, there was only one women's match on the card.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and I get it, but at least they had, a women's match and a women's segment. So it was okay. I'm not going to completely hate on it. They got Nyla Rose in, they got Riho in, even though Riho, they probably could have just had a cardboard cutout stand in for Riho, because I didn't think she blinked that entire segment, did she? She just kind of stood there stone-faced while Pac was cutting his promo, and then she came out and got power-bombed into a table, not through it, into it, because she only weighs like 90 pounds.
I would not be surprised if the title changes hands next week.
No, I wouldn't.
But it's not going to matter either way. Riho hasn't been on TV for 3 weeks.
Nope.
Nyla's barely been on for the last 2 months, and there's no heat in that division at all right now besides Chelsea Baker. It's just completely dead in the water, in my opinion.
Well, and they've been building.
We haven't even seen the Nightmare Collective for a couple of weeks, right?
And yeah, exactly. And just speaking of Nightmare Collective, they've been building this weird little gimmick with Brandy Rhodes, and she came out completely out of character because her husband was getting whipped. As much as I understand why they went for the feel-good moment, I also feel like that was a misstep. They needed to keep her in her character and maybe not run her out there in front of everybody. I get it, that's her husband and everything, but to watch her after the way she's been since AEW TV's started, to watch her run out there crying, to give support to her husband, was so out of character, it almost put that whatever she's doing on hold and took it back a few steps. You can't.
Definitely. They should have made it more. They if they were going to do something like this, they should have had it planned in advance. They should have made it more clear over the last several weeks that there's two different personalities to Brandy Rhodes.
Right. Instead of having her be this sadistic whatever she is, with the Nightmare Collective, and then watch her run out sobbing and crying and grabbing her husband's hand in this episode. I think that was a huge misstep for her character too. It just there was just too many, and I like I said, I hate to really hate on it. I don't know if I'm comparing it more towards last week's episode, which, like I said, was an A+ episode. Everything worked last week. This week, a few missteps, but it's weekly TV. At least they were throwing something out there, trying to see if it would work. I don't get why they did an exact replica of the Flip Gordon caning. That doesn't make sense to me. But it is what it is.
It is what it is, but at the same time, I think it was a terrible way to do that segment, because to me they just threw cold water on a hot feud by doing it the way they did.
Yeah, it didn't do much.
I no longer really care about that match, and it was what I was looking forward to the most coming into the show.
Well, with how on fire both those guys have been on the mic, especially Cody, I don't think we needed to really draw more sympathy for him or his character. You know, he's already the sympathetic character. This was unnecessary to have him look the way that he did, and to have him, you know, he made fun of the whole caning thing and to have him go out there and sell the lashes like it was this brutal. I mean, I get it. You know, you get slapped with a leather belt. Believe me, I used to get beat with a leather belt all the time. I know how much it hurts. But he was already over as that sympathetic character. This was not a necessary thing for him.
Well, maybe it is long term. Maybe because we know that he's already lost his chance to be world champion. Maybe this is all part of a hero's journey for that's a year down the road where he finally gets his shot at the championship again. We'll have to see long term if it's a good idea or not. But I certainly didn't think it came off well tonight.
No, I don't. I didn't either.
Speaking of, one more thing I wanted to mention is, we don't know when it's coming, but they said, coming soon is the Exalted One. Any ideas who that's going to be? I mean, I would love for it to be Luke Harper, honestly. Or Brody Lee.
I was
on the Indies.
Thinking that way because Brody Lee has signed with AEW, and he would be a great member of the Dark Order and a great leader of the Dark Order, and give that stable a little bit of legitimacy that they don't seem to have right now. So when I heard he had signed, that was my first thought, is that he would be that he would fit that role pretty well.
Oh yeah, see, I didn't even know he had signed.
Yeah, it was on Twitter. I think Ryan actually tweeted it, that he saw that he had signed, and he said how good of a fit they would be. Maybe I don't know. I guess I didn't really look it up, so I'm not entirely sure.
My other thought was that the Exalted One's going to end up being Christopher Daniels.
That would be a hell of a swerve. That really, really would be a hell of a swerve.
And it would fit his whole, his old version of the Fallen Angel character, where he was like the Dark Priest, and he was giving last rites to people, and he had the dark shadow eye makeup and all that stuff. So those are my two thoughts of who could be the Exalted One: Christopher Daniels in a turn, or Luke Harper coming in. I prefer Luke Harper, honestly, just because Daniels is so, towards the end of his career, whereas Luke Harper still has plenty of gas left in the tank, and has never really gotten the big shot he should have.
Okay, it's not reported that he's signed, but it's reported that the rumor mill is that he's debuting with AEW in March.
Okay.
And that comes from Meltzer.
All right.
Yeah, Meltzer's saying that the plan is for Harper to debut on the March 18th edition of AEW Dynamite from Harper's hometown in New York, Rochester, New York.
Interesting.
So I mean,
I was telling speaking of March episodes, I was telling my wife that I might need to take another business trip to Colorado in March because on my birthday they're going to be in Denver.
That's all right. That's funny. Yeah, I hate to bring this up. I don't think we're going to be able to do the show after. I'm having major YouTube issues. It's not streaming well. It's choppy. We might have to postpone our Eminem thing. Just on a side
That's
note.
all right. All right. Yeah, I've noticed that you've been lagging a bit behind me as well.
Yeah,
so.
I'm having major YouTube issues tonight.
All right. Well, things happen. It's okay.
Yeah.
What else was I going to say? Oh, this just it was a poor episode. I thought tonight. The crowd had basically no energy. I felt like it was one of the worst crowds I've ever had to this point. And but I'm still looking forward to next week. Next week they've already got big stuff lined up. So Rio's defending the women's championship. Our boys Hangman and